coming up. An hilariously uplifting story about Toyota and its close associates shooting themselves in the vegetables on emissions, mainly because that worked out so damn well recently for Volkswagen. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, and I get new cars cheap for buyers here in Australia. Website for that, BSD, or you can just click the card that's up there now. Dude, do it now before some other unethical scumbag car maker gets on the Volkswagen bandwagon and poisons the very air you breathe. About 2.5 years ago now, right? Just 23 sleeps before Christmas in 2020. I was back at approximately COVID's first birthday, if memory serves. The ACCC spent The ACCC spent a rare full day awake to put Toyota's somewhat atrophied testicles in the vice grips over the Big T's spectacularly anti-consumer conduct orbiting the worst DPF design ever on the Toyota 2.8 diesel shitbox engine in Prado, Hilux and Fortuna. Oh, what a feeling. Kind of puts all of Toyota's bullshit rhetoric regarding its hybrids in perspective, doesn't it? But it was rather nice of the corporate watchdog to remain conscious for long enough to get all of that done just before Christmas and even issue a press release. Then, just the other day actually, the class action result came in here in Australia and declared once again, impartially, objectively, that Toyota were in fact profoundly anti-consumer cocksuckers, although they didn't use those words. Those pesky facts. Bastards. And the compensation bill is likely to be a lazy 2 billion Schittsvillian micro pesos. Ouch. I'd love to be in on the Zoom calls back to Japan in respect of all of that. Brows would be even more deeply furrowed than usual, I'd suggest. Full report on the class action to date up there, dude. Now, in March this year, Hino, Toyota's trucking subsidiary, you've heard of it, the name actually means sun field in Nipponese, hilariously, considering what the company's just done, i.e. everything possible to block out the fucking sun. Hino, the rhinoceros that dropped its R, suspended the sale of 5 trucks and bus models in Japan after admitting to emissions, quote-unquote, misconduct. Dude, misconduct. It just rolls off the tongue somewhat better than inhuman mother lovers, doesn't it? Apparently, filthy senior executive emissions cheats at Hino headquarters have admitted to falsifying data. I think they really mean lying in official emissions durability tests. But perhaps they're not lying. Perhaps they really are just falsifying data. There could be a subtle distinction there which people like us can't really appreciate. Presumably, they went all weapons grade in the domain of data falsification because, provided you don't get caught, cheating really is the easiest way to comply with legislation of this nature, especially if nobody checks. Predictably enough, the company has blamed, quote, internal pressures for its untrustworthy, lying, cheating scumbag behaviour. Correction, its data falsification compliance program. They didn't set out to cut corners, they just couldn't handle the pressure. It's just like Scotty talking to Captain Kirk on the intercom on the issue of pumping up that dilithium reactor and how much it really will take. This conduct, these press releases, these statements, straight from the corporate sociopath playbook, in my view. They've launched an internal investigation. which is kind of like having Hannibal Lecter write the new Women's Weekly cookbook, isn't it? Hino has also confirmed through emissions durability retesting that there is a possibility this engine may exceed regulatory emission standards over the course of the vehicle's full useful life. This is a kind of corporate doublespeak orbiting the fact that their catalytic converter just shit the bed the first time around in testing, and rather than fix the issue, they just went in and snuck in a new one quietly. They carried on and they declared the test a pass with flying friggin' colours under their high-pressure data falsification program. Hashtag arseholes. At the risk of seeming, I don't know, slightly churlish, which I clearly strive to avoid wherever possible because I am deeply concerned with fitting in everywhere and being liked. It seems like the same R&D philosophy is in play here as it was for the 2.8 shitbox DPFs. Go figure. I guess consistency really is key when you are in the court of the king of mediocrity. This caused an altered value that was better than the actual value to be displayed on the fuel consumption meter. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, really? Is that how this works? What a lucky break. Who knew? You know they've been caught without pants several hundred metres from the front door, outside a school, on CCTV, with a dozen unimpeachable witnesses when they stoop to admitting it this early. For a company as deeply sociopathic as Toyota, admitting it is like fixing bayonets. It's desperation stuff. Their style, exemplified by the company's conduct in the ultimate shitbox DPF 2.8 challenge, is simply to refrain from comment and pretend it's all good for months to years if necessary. Admitting it this early is bad. Once you admit it, the waveform collapses, dude, and the cat is dead. There's no more each way bet, is there? All you can do is spin up the bullshit generator and hope to minimise the fallout. Going forward, Hino is committed to putting compliance first. And not only that, in addition to newfound compliance commitment, they've already begun improving their internal governance system, according to them. Not hard, admittedly, given how so obviously fucked it was recently. Like the pressure. It just collapsed the governance balloon. Hashtag not our fault. On balance, well, that's okay then. All is forgiven. You disingenuous Hino corporate spin doctor cockheads. What a pity they didn't just put the egg before the chicken on this issue and fix the fucking catalytic converter's defect by re-fucking designing it. All of this unpleasantness could have been avoided. Who knew? Imagine if you pull up outside a bank in a van wearing coveralls and a ski mask. You stride in purposefully one morning brandishing Liberace's AK. You let a few rounds rip into the ceiling, and after a few more fairly predictable theatrics, taken mainly from movies, you depart in a plume of tyre smoke with a duffel bag full of 50s. Mission accomplished. In your mind, you haven't robbed the bank. You've really just made a withdrawal. And admittedly, you've cut a few procedural corners, but hey, you've been under rather a lot of pressure. And then, inconveniently, just a few hundred metres down the road, you run over a strip of spikes, and a police officer invites you to desist by way of jamming the business end of his Glock neatly in your ear. You know, it's actually very hard to talk your way out of situations such as this. So, after exhausting all exoneration options, you just admit you did it. You cite internal pressure to make money quickly owing to the burden of the rising cost of living or something. Tiffany's need for designer handbags knows no bounds after all, and who are you to say no to reasonable requests such as this? So you tell investigating officers and the public that you've thought carefully about your actions and you're now committed to putting compliance first, henceforth. And during the interrogation, you've already begun working on strategies for improving your behavioural governance. going forward. I guess that's going to be okay then, right? You shake hands like, let's keep it professional. Just don't do it again, dude, okay? This is exactly how it is for corporations, amazingly enough. Apparently, the US Department of Justice has launched its own investigation into Hino's emissions assholery, and I suppose if history repeats, Hino could find itself on the books as a convicted felon in the USA, just like Volkswagen. Perhaps they could share a cell. I know who'd get the top bunk. German police raided the offices of Suzuki on Wednesday over allegations of manipulative emissions readings. Prosecutors added they were investigating persons at the Japanese carmaker responsible for the use of illegal defeat devices which artificially reduce the amounts of emissions in test situations compared with emissions in real-life scenarios. Goodness me, Dieselgate 2.0 perhaps. Eurojust, which would be kind of like the FBI if the EU were in fact America. They also served warrants on Suzuki's offices in Hungary and Italy just last week. That must have been quite unpleasant. Except for the Eurojust dudes, they love that shit. Now, you might not know this, but Suzuki is quietly sleeping with Toyota. It's been going on for quite some time now, about 6 years. And that is a movie I emphatically never want to see. I typically have quite diverse tastes cinematically too. Go figure. The reason this pair is giving the mattress such a workout is India. Suzuki owns about 45% of the burgeoning Indian car market, while Toyota is stuck with a measly sub 5% share. In India, Hyundai sells over 3 times more vehicles than Toyota. Proportionality-wise, it's the inverse of the market segmentation here in Shitsville, although obviously the volumes are much higher because population. So, Toyota and Suzuki had a reach around under the table, they liked what they felt, and they took a chunk of each other's shares. Toyota now owns roughly 5% of Suzuki, and Suzuki got roughly fuck all of Toyota's shares, which is about 0.2 of 1%, like a metric fuck all, in other words. They got to rebadge each other's cars, okay? And Toyota shares its mediocre hybrid tech with Suzuki in India. So Toyota is, in a sense, tenuously linked to this alleged cheating emanating from Europe and going Christ knows where else around the globe from there. Only time will tell on that one, I suppose. These Eurojust raids are a smoke and fire kind of situation, right? You see the smoke, you presume there's a fire, and in this one, there's the highest possibility of flames, in my view. Like, law enforcement agencies typically do not conduct high-profile raids and issue press releases about them unless it's more or less a done deal. In a statement on Wednesday, Eurojust said the raids were to counter the use of faulty emissions devices in engines used in cars of a Japanese producer. If emissions cheating is a pandemic as opposed to an isolated outbreak, it seems that a new strain is about to engulf the world, with Toyota leading the charge this time perhaps via the twin mechanisms of R&D inadequacy and the willful intent to cheat. 2 obvious points on this before I let you go, okay? First, did Hino, Suzuki, Toyota, whatever, not just look around following the highly publicised Volkswagen Dieselgate scandal over the past 7 years and see the billions in fines and civil penalties and the senior execs behind bars with Bubba in the slammer and just conclude to double check that they were in fact strictly complying? I would have done that. Did they not expect increased emissions compliance scrutiny from regulators in the years ahead? What sort of preposterously conceited and yet dumb shit management culture do you have to presume that you are too smart to get caught on emissions? As Dunning-Kruger cases go, this one is off the chart. At least that's how it seems to me. And second, emissions regulations are really not just arbitrary, right? They're really human health regulations. Toxic pollution from cars, and I love cars, it kills more people prematurely than road trauma, especially in our cities. That's just a scientific fact. And no, you don't have to like it. But facts are facts and they need to be respected. Therefore, when a car maker decides to cheat its emissions compliance, that car maker is putting its profit in front of your life and the lives of the people you love. The car maker has made a choice, right, to roll the dice with your premature death in order to keep those rivers of gold pouring in. Because obviously it has obligations to its stakeholders and they're important to the car maker, and the average car maker boardroom is the Bermuda fucking Triangle for moral compasses. To me, this second point indelibly paints Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, Porsche, Toyota, Hino and Suzuki now in a whole new and profoundly inhuman light. You don't have to like that either if you are the owner of some morally relativistic emissions cheating shitbox. I can already feel the mouth-breathing opprobrium welling up from committed Toyota and Dub owners, just surging up in the comments. Yes, how dare I criticise your cult? Please don't disappoint me if you use the pie hole for respiration. Your contribution to this video could well be more entertaining than the video itself. Let's find out. And with that, let me declare the mouth-breathing illiteracy outrage Olympics officially open for business down there.